This is Mystery Babylon Unveiled, Lucifer the Queen of Heaven, Chapter 15, The Queen Bee. From the images of beehives and Freemasonic art to the fountain of the bees in Rome, a stone image of bees on the clamshell of Venus, even to the popes wearing a crown that looks like a bee's abdomen with a stinger on top. All of this bee symbolism begs the question, who is the Queen Bee? On the page titled Goddess as Queen Bee, Artemis of Ephesus, from Flowery Moon, it says, the bee and the goddess have been intertwined through time and in multiple cultures. The honeycomb is seen in architecture in her city of Ephesus, city of the bee. Her priestesses were called Melissa, a name that means bee. The bee represents the magic of creation, transformation, divine perfection, and healing. Artemis as Queen Bee is the source of all these. The Lost Art of Resurrection's author, Freddie Silva, gives more insight on the connection between the goddess and bees, saying, the Greek historian Porphyry describes how in the temples presided by Artemis, Demeter, or Cybele, the priestesses and attendants were called Melissa, the bees. I'm going to scroll down here. And that this insect came to be associated with the concept of periodic regeneration by the manner in which the Melissa inherited their title from Greek mythology. Melissa was one of a group of bee nymphs whose duty was to teach civilizing behaviors and bring men out of their state of ignorance. Page 95. We have here a plaque showing what is presumed to be a bee goddess from the British Museum. Next page. The Queen Bee is the goddess, and the bees represent her priesthood. Silva goes on to say the following about the Queen Bee. Ancient societies believed that wisdom emanated from an other world presided predominantly by a female deity, a mother goddess or divine virgin who provided hotspots across the earth where one is perfectly capable of accessing her directly. This exalted maiden represents the creative source. She is the personification of the primeval force. In the Celtic world, such qualities are bestowed upon the goddess Breed or Bride or Bridget. Her name is the root of bride. 124 through 125. Let's scroll down here. God, or the force, is manifested in the material world by the goddess. Since bees are a symbol of her priesthood, that must mean that the beehive symbolizes her temple. Is that why architects make buildings with dome-shaped roofs? That's part of it, no doubt. The dome also represents her womb. St. Peter's Basilica has a beehive-shaped dome for the womb of the goddess, the Holy of Holies, where Catholic faithful partake in the sacrifice of her Son, the Eucharist. Here is an aerial view of St. Peter's Basilica Square with lines drawn by me to emphasize that it represents a woman's body. I'm trying not to get into much commentary, but you can imagine the keyhole where the phallus of the sun god goes, or it is inserted, the keyhole, and then you have the dome, which represents the space of the divine feminine abode, the womb. Their children are baptized with the waters of the womb by priests using a seashell to pour the water. Then the people exit the building and pass through the birth canal leading to the keyhole, where the phallus of the sun god, the obelisk, penetrates the earth. This obelisk is in St. Peter's Square. Remember, the square is a symbol for the divine feminine, representing the female, next page, reproductive system, or yoni. This process of passing through a model of the female reproductive system is how they are purified and born again. Freemasonic art shows a beehive with the words, "Holiness to the Lord," on it. You will find that beehive on the doorknob of the Salt Lake Mormon Temple as well. And in case you have any doubt that they serve the goddess, you can find Venus's shell on it too. And here is the image of the beehive on Masonic art. You will find it on some of those, and you have it here on the doorknob of the Salt Lake Mormon Temple, and there is the seashell of Venus on it as well. So this, I believe, is the beehive is the representation of the goddess's temple. You can also find seashells above doors and shelves in the Oval Office. The oval itself is symbolic of the ovum, which means egg. The symbols of the divine feminine typically all represent either the womb or the vagina. The name Vesica Piscis is also used. Barbara G. Walker in the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets reveals that the word cunt, which has become vulgar and forbidden to say, comes from the name of the goddess who was the embodiment of the yoni. So under cunt, derivative of the Oriental great goddess as Kunti or Kunti or Kunda, the yoni of the universe. Page 197. In the goddess Kunda, we have the root for Kundalini, also known as Shakti. As Walker describes Kundalini, tantric image of the female serpent coiled in the lowest chakra of the human body and the pelvis. An aim of tantric yoga was to realize Kundalini by certain exercises and meditations such as Yoni Mudra or Yoni hand signs. 517, and we covered those in previous chapters. In America, Nation of the Goddess, Alan Butler tells us what yoni symbols are typically most significant. There is no more potent symbolism for either the goddess or the sacred feminine generally than the diamond in the Vesica Piscis. 287. Next page. So in this figure here we have the symbols representing the divine feminine. We have the diamond shapes, the inverted or down-pointed triangle, the Vesica Piscis that are two circles overlapping, a form of Yoni Mudra, which is what most people call the OK or the 666 hand sign, as covered in previous chapters. Forming a ring with any of your fingers creates the Yoni hand sign. You can do a combination of the devil horns with the Yoni Mudra or any variation, but touching the finger to the thumb creates the Yoni, the whole, the Yoni Mudra, the divine feminine symbol. And here's another Yoni hand sign, and you have the mandorla shape, which is the sort of oval or almond shape, where you will often see the Christ figure inside the womb or inside the passage, inside the divine feminine. And here you have the Ordo Templi, I'm sorry, I forgot the name right now, but you have multiple divine feminine symbols inside of that divine feminine symbol. The diamond, the downward pointed triangle, the Vesica Piscis, the Yoni Mudra, hand signs, and mandorla, all of these represent the divine feminine. Not pictured above but also included are the square and the grail, the chalice. What's that Vesica Piscis doing on the MasterCard, by the way? That tells you who their master is. That's what. Even the so-called 666 hand sign is a Yoni Mudra. According to the Sign Language of the Mysteries by J.S.M. Ward, meeting the fingers with the thumb, which creates a ring, is a sign of the Vesica Piscis. It can be combined with other signs such as the sign of the horns on page 159 through 160. Recall all the times that you've seen the OK sign, OK hand sign, placed over some celebrity's eye, combining the eye and the womb symbolism together. Bonus points if you saw them stick out their tongue too. As to what the yoni hand sign is used to signal, Ward says, I'm going to scroll down here, the initiate is informed that he is a brother of every other member of the Hung Lodge because by the ceremony he has been reborn from the same womb, and they speak of their lodge as their mother, just as the European might speak of his mother city. From page 161. The mysteries in the lodges where initiates take part in the mysteries are metaphorical wombs. James G. Frazier, author of The Golden Bow or Golden Bow, describes the process involving a giant symbol of the yoni by which two particular men had to be born again. Two Hindu ambassadors who had been sent by England by a native prince and had returned to India were considered to have so polluted themselves by contact with strangers that nothing but being born again, scrolling to the next page, could restore them to purity. For the purpose of regeneration, it is directed to make an image of pure gold of the female power of nature, in the shape of either a woman or of a cow. In this statue, the person to be regenerated is enclosed and dragged through the usual channel. As a statue of pure gold and of proper dimensions would be too expensive, it is sufficient to make an image of the sacred yoni through which the person to be regenerated is to pass. Such an image of pure gold was made at the prince's command, and his ambassadors were born again by being dragged through it. Page 157 through 158. Scrolling down. In relation to being born again, the spiral represents rebirth. You can find it on the belly of images of goddesses, over their womb specifically. The labyrinth similarly represents the place where rebirth happens. Emerging from the labyrinth, like rising from the grave, is being reborn, rising as a higher superior being. It's the hero's journey. The spiral appears in the title of the movie Home, a movie about the search for a missing mother named Lucy. It appears in the title of the film Moana, a film about a young ocean goddess on a journey to find the missing supreme goddess Tahiti, and find herself while she's at it. You have here an image of a spiral goddess. The spiral goddesses bear the spiral on their bellies. Yeah, and the spiral represents death and rebirth, and the womb is a tomb. This is a symbol of the divine feminine. Looking at some of her other symbols, the apple is worthy of discussion. Let's call to mind the Applebee's logo. There are two symbols combined in that name. But what does the apple have to do with the goddess? In one way, it's because the apple is connected to the serpent, since it's popularly looked at as the forbidden fruit that the serpent tempted Eve to eat. But how did the apple become synonymous with the knowledge of good and evil? The Bible doesn't say what the forbidden fruit was. It definitely doesn't say that there is anything wrong with eating apples. Believe it or not, the answer to that also points to the goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, who often holds a golden apple in her hand because it was a prize given to her for winning a beauty contest. The apple is also found in a myth about the golden apples of the garden of the Hesperide nymphs. Their name comes from Hesperus, which is given to Venus as the evening star. So it seems all roads lead to Venus. This image is of Venus holding an apple, Venus of Arles by Francis Girardin from 1651. You see she is holding the apple in her hand. I believe I have already shown in the previous chapter another image of Venus holding an apple in her hand. Scrolling to the next page. The Holy Grail is a reference to the womb. The chalice and the cup, like the bowl, represents that which contains the holy blood or seed. Think about the rose bowl. The square, both the four-sided shape and the square tool, are references to the womb as well. The square tool resembles a V shape. The V shape is also called a chevron. It is symbolic of the chalice, which represents the womb. In this image, we have the Masonic apron right there. The Masonic apron is a square and has square angles. You see the square shape, and it has the square angles. They are not always square shape, but it will usually always have the square angle. The V in the Victoria's Secret logo is also a square. The S might be for serpent. It sure is curved like a serpent. Victoria is a goddess, and she is called Nike. She's also called Nike. The letter V itself is also a symbol of the divine feminine. V is the Roman numeral for 5. The pentagram has 5 points. Because of the letter's shape, V also represents the chalice or grail. Having said that, the sigil of Lucifer is shaped like a downward pointed triangle or chalice. The whole sigil is a yoni symbol. As Dion Fortune explains in the mystical Kabbalah, cups are essentially the female force, for the cup or chalice is one of the symbols of Binah and is intimately allied with the yoni in esoteric symbolism. Page 147. The sigil of Lucifer is filled with divine feminine symbolism and overall represents the womb. It has an X for the female chromosome, that is my speculation, and it also resembles a rose. The rose is sacred to Venus as a symbol of love and passion, and because the star point cycle of Venus over the course of 8 years makes a rose pattern. I've seen this pattern referred to as the kiss of Venus. Just like in the past with Venus, in these modern times, roses are given to the Virgin Mary or Our Lady. This pattern here on the left is called the kiss of Venus, or as I have seen it called, and you see the 5-petaled rose pattern in the middle, and you have a rose on the right. So when you see a rose, that is a symbol for Venus. As mentioned already, the 5-pointed star, often seen in Masonic structures and art, is referred to by the Masons as the blazing star. It is linked to both Venus and Sirius. Not only does Venus make a rose pattern over the course of an 8-year cycle, but it makes a 5-pointed star as well. The goddess Sabdet, who is identified with Isis, wears a 5-pointed star on her head. She is the embodiment of the star Sirius. In Hidden Secrets of the Eastern Star, Dr. Kathy Burns comments, "It's interesting to note that Venus also became the goddess of the dog star Sirius," page 54. In this figure, we have the pentagram of Venus on the left. Venus makes this pentagram over the course of 8 years, and Sabdet on the right, who is also identified with Sirius, with the 5-pointed star on her head. If you have ever wondered why so many countries in the West use the colors red, white, and blue in their flags, it's possibly because Sirius primarily flashes the colors red, white, and blue. Sirius is also called the rainbow star because a whole spectrum of colors can be observed from the star through a telescope. If you have ever seen the star through a telescope, you can search for such videos on YouTube as I have. You will notice that there appears to be a hole in Sirius. The star looks very much like the iris of an eye. The rainbow star Sirius, having the appearance of an eye, is interesting because the goddess of the rainbow happens to be named Iris, and Iris spelled backwards is Siri. Apple iPhone users would recognize that name. Considering these many symbols that I've discussed here, how many do we see all around us and how often? It appears much more than you realize. You might start to recognize them from now on. The goddess appears on many types of currency around the world, but since I live in America, I'm going to use this country's money as an example. I found several examples of United States coins that have goddesses featured on them, either holding the torch of enlightenment or the sprig of regeneration, or even both. As seen often on the silver dollar is the name of the goddess Liberty, or the goddess herself. While those coins may say, "In God we trust," you can't allow those flattering words to deceive you. A tree is known by its fruits, so look at what they show you. They show you who their god or goddess truly is. So these are various coins featuring the goddess of liberty or Libertas. "In God we trust" is printed on some of them. Now I'm not sure if all of these coins went into print or not, but they do demonstrate the point that I was making, the sprig of regeneration and the torch of liberty. The Mother of Exiles, also known as the Statue of Liberty, stands on Liberty Island in New York Harbor. It's quite clearly the goddess Libertas. By her title, Mother of Exiles, she is the mother of those who have been cast out of their, scrolling down, first estate. This perhaps being a reference to fallen angels. The official name for this idol is the Statue of Liberty Enlightening the World. It is made of copper, which is a metal associated with the planet Venus. Held like a child in her left arm is a tablet with the date of the Declaration of Independence on it. America and all its inhabitants are her children. Stuart Best, in his film Why America is Babylon, decoded the Roman numerals MDCCLXXVI, which are also on the tablet. Not only does it mean 1776, but it also means 666 after it is decoded. The tablet in the goddess's left arm can also be interpreted as the beast or the Antichrist. It's the mother goddess and her son, S-U-N again. In Libertas' right arm is held up the torch. She is the light bearer, and from her head shines forth the rays of enlightenment. While the Statue of Liberty may be the most famous symbol of America, she's not called the Spirit of America or the Goddess of America. Those titles are given to Columbia. Columbia comes from Columba, meaning a dove. The dove is another one of her symbols. Now people use it as a symbol for the Holy Spirit, but the Most High didn't tell anyone to do that. He said not to make any image in any likeness of him. And here is a Roman coin with Venus on the front and her dove on the back. And here we have, of course, the Statue of Liberty enlightening the world. And in this image we have the Goddess of Freedom. She's literally called the Goddess of Freedom, which stands on top of the Capitol building in the District of Columbia. Scrolling down, next page. The capital of the United States is the District of Columbia, formerly the Territory of Columbia. The reverence for the Divine Feminine goes beyond the name here. The entire district is shaped like a diamond or square. The Potomac River flows through this giant symbol of the Yoni. The District of Columbia is surrounded by Maryland on one side and Virginia on the other. Being on the East Coast, this represents the place where the sun is born. So here we have an image, aerial or satellite footage of, or satellite image of the District of Columbia. You see the outline here. I highlighted it in white to make it easier to see, and the Potomac River flowing through it. You have Maryland on one side and Virginia on the other. Inside the District of Columbia is the Pentagon building, which is related to the pentagram, of course. North of the Pentagon is the White House, where the Oval Office is. It's important that we know the Oval Office, or it's important that we know that the office is oval shaped because it represents the egg, meaning the seat of power is in the goddess's womb. The White House is located at the southern point of the inverted pentagram that's formed by the street layout. Here we have an image of a satellite image above the White House, and you see the White House is located at the tip of the pentagram that is made by the street layout. To the east, also formed by the street planning, we see a pyramid. Capitol Hill is located just above the capstone of the pyramid. There is an oval in there representing the eye of the capstone. Remember who that eye on the pedestal of the pyramid represents. It's that woman called wickedness. Perched on that capstone is her owl, and inside the owl is the Capitol building. You will find the woman who is represented by both the eye symbol and the owl standing on top of the Capitol building. She's called the goddess of freedom. The word free links back to the Old Norse goddess Freya, and liberty to the goddess Libertas. Ironically, as 2 Peter 2:19 says, while they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption. And here we have an image of the street layout. You have the Capitol building inside the goddess's owl at the top of the pyramid. You have the pyramid here. There's the capstone, and then here, this oval here for the eye, and you have the Capitol building here at the tip of the capstone, where the goddess sits on top of the dome and inside her owl. Keeping in mind all the divine feminine symbolism designed into Washington, D.C., I will now inform you that this location is the center of a giant sigil of Lucifer that spans across nearly a third of the country. The Seal of Liberty author has shown how multiple locations across America, all named Cedar Point, were aligned so that when lines are drawn between them, they form the sigil of Lucifer. In the video titled Sigil of Lucifer, Scottish Rite's Symbol of Liberty, the Seal of Liberty author demonstrates that this could only have been possible with dedicated planning, ruling out any chances of it all being a coincidence. Here is an image, a screenshot from the video, Sigil of Lucifer, Scottish Rite's Symbol of Liberty, and you have 3 points at the corners and 3 points at the corners, all named Cedar Point, and then you have Washington, D.C. and the center. And we've already seen how much divine feminine symbolism is in Washington, D.C. This is the sigil of Lucifer on the United States. The architects of this country didn't do anything without taking extreme care to align their actions with the stars of heaven. Another example of that, on Wednesday, September 18, 1793, the cornerstone was laid for the Capitol building. Wednesdays are the day of the week most associated with the sign of Virgo. Alan Butler, author of City of the Goddess, gives more insight on what was happening in the sky that day. Scrolling down. If the goddess of freedom had already been present on that Wednesday, September 18, 1793, at 3:30 a.m., the near full moon was about to set, leaving Venus in the east for 2 hours as the brightest and most significant object in that early autumn morning sky, and the sun firmly positioned in the sign of Virgo. From page 13. There is another striking symbol called the Auspis Maria. We'll just scroll down so that we can get an image of that. It is a letter M overlaying a letter A. In some cases, it is highly stylized, making it difficult to distinguish the letters. So this is an image that I made by overlaying the letter M with the letter A to make the Auspis Maria. It's not perfect, but it demonstrates the point well enough. Auspis Maria is a Latin phrase meaning under the protection of Mary. It's another goddess protection symbol like the sign of the horns in the Hamsa hand. If you look very closely at it to examine its shape, you can see a diamond shape in the middle for the divine feminine. You may be able to see a resemblance to the square and compass. And if you call to mind the sigil of Lucifer, you may notice that at the very bottom of the sigil, where the V is, resembles the Auspis Maria. So in this image we have the Auspis Maria, which is at the top of this banner, and it seems very similar, at least to me, to the V or the shape at the bottom of the sigil of Lucifer. You have the diamond shape there. You can even perceive two pillars at each end, which we will get into later. The Roman numerals, I want to scroll back up. The Roman numerals 911 or 4911 IXXI form the shape of the Auspis Maria. That is surely by design, because on September 11th, the sun is in the constellation of Virgo, also known as the Celestial Virgin and the Queen of Heaven. In the Roman numerals IXXI, we can also see a representation of 101. The female double X chromosomes, or double crosses, form the sacred feminine diamond shape. In the Dos Equis logo, there appears to be a sun god in the diamond, perhaps being born from within it. To the next page. Here we have, in this image, the female double X's found in the Auspis Maria, and the logos resemble the shape of the square and compass. So this XX becomes a square and compass, and it also forms a sacred feminine diamond shape. And as I mentioned, the sun god appears to be within that sacred feminine diamond shape. Turning our attention to the goddess's owl again, we find it in many other places, such as logos, and as a symbol of the Illuminati. It stands as a giant stone image at Bohemian Grove, where influential men go to perform rituals and worship great nature, which we know is the great whore of Babylon. Out there in the grove, they reject the Most High Yah, referring to him as dull care, in a ceremony called the cremation of care. The goddess was also found on the Georgia guidestones under the name Nature, before the guidestones were unceremoniously toppled in 2022. Here's the image of the owl from the Bohemian Club logo. And that is, of course, for that woman wickedness. The first commandment on the Georgia guidestones was maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. The 10th and final commandment was, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Nature was mentioned 3 times. In the final commandment, the commandment to leave room for nature was written twice. When Freemasons say nature, I know they mean it with a capital N, because it is a spirit. That much is made clear when you hear them praise great nature in video footage from Bohemian Grove. They might as well call her Asherah. In modern times, we call Asherah by the names Mother Earth, Mother Nature, or Gaia. Gaia is a name that is at the center of the New Age movement. Dr. John Rogers, who wrote New Age Bible, said the New Age movement seemed to come into being during the 60s and 70s, but it is much older than that. The roots of the New Age movement can be traced to as early as 1776, when a new and revolutionary form of government was created in America. The founders of this nation designed a great seal to be the symbol of this new form of government, and on the great seal are found the words Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means a new order of the ages. Page 96. Mystery Babylon is hidden in far more symbols than I could possibly hope to show you in one book. I will give you a few more examples. In a screenshot from the video for the song Mother, Meghan Trainor wears silver, the color of the moon, and sits in the sacred feminine diamond or squares. Light rays expand outward. These symbols vaguely resemble the shape of an eye as well. So you have Meghan Trainor here, the diva, which means goddess, and the divine feminine symbolism in the music video Mother 2023. And it vaguely resembles the shape of an eye. While goddess symbols are often hidden in plain sight, as with the MasterCard's Vesica Piscis, sometimes they are inverted into masculine forms for the purpose of obfuscation. I struggle with that word. The symbol for Lucius Trust, formerly known as Lucifer, I'm going to scroll down here, publishing company, is a triangle with the word lux or light designed into it. This is an inverted sigil of Lucifer. Figure 1522 here, we have the MasterCard with the Vesica Piscis on it, Vesica Piscis. And you have the Lucius Trust logo, formerly Lucifer Publishing Company. And it has light designed into it, or mean lux, which means light. And it is an inverted sigil of Lucifer. Scrolling down. I don't doubt that Lucifer will receive worship as a male, as I pointed out when discussing Allah. But her true nature as a female will eventually show itself. This is typically done in ways the uninitiated can't perceive, in religious rituals, entertainment logos, and in Masonic art. Mystery Babylon is a mystery, so the initiated must present Lucifer as a male to the outsider, and Lucius Trust, Lucifer Publishing Company, does exactly that. Here we have the Columbia Pictures logo, showing Columbia, the goddess, holding up the torch. Ishtar was the goddess of light in Babylon, and we still see the goddess bringing the light from heaven in other forms. A most notable example is in the Columbia Pictures logo, which features the goddess Columbia holding the torch of enlightenment. The model who posed for the 1992 logo held in her hand an electric lamp that resembled a torch. When we see the image of a woman holding up a light, it's not merely a creative choice being made. It's Ishtar, the goddess of light, or Lucifer, being shown to us under a different persona. This image is of, I'm trying to find the caption there, The Electric Light by Ludwig Candler from 1884. And it is a goddess holding up an electric light. I remember now that I actually forgot to show, I will come back to this because I forgot to show the image at the beginning of the book. I'm kind of breaking my formula here, but I want to show the image at the beginning too, which also features a goddess holding an electric light. This is an advertisement for the General Electric Company Society, 1892, depicting the Queen of Heaven bringing illumination and spiritual power. Of course, the lightning for enlightenment and spiritual power. Maybe I did show that image, but I don't remember showing it. All right. So that was chapter, which chapter are we on? Sorry. Yep, that was chapter 15. The next chapter is chapter 16. I am and none else beside me. Mystery Babylon Unveiled, Lucifer the Queen of Heaven, brings to light Bible scriptures which prove that the one known as Satan, the devil, and Lucifer, is in fact a woman. It reveals how she is identified in the Bible as the Queen of Heaven and the Great Whore of Babylon. This book also brings forth incontrovertible historic evidence confirming that Lucifer was worshipped in the earliest recorded history as the Great Mother Goddess, and that she is still worshipped as such within the halls of secret societies today. Discover where the world's worship of the goddess began and where it is hidden within the pages of this book. Mystery Babylon Unveiled, Lucifer the Queen of Heaven is available in paperback and ebook at all online sellers. If your local bookstore or library doesn't carry this book, please request it. By doing so, you will help get the book onto more shelves. Mystery Babylon Unveiled, Lucifer the Queen of Heaven contains essential knowledge that all Christians should take hold of. It is an insightful and profound revealing of one of the greatest mysteries in the world.